More devastating news coming out of the Middle East this afternoon after an airstrike on a Gaza hospital killed at least 500 people. The deadly blast comes hours before President Joe Biden is scheduled to arrive in Israel in a show of support. ABC News is reporting the latest from Jerusalem.
3 days of mourning declared in Gaza after a devastating attack on Baptist Hospital. Hundreds killed, according to the health ministry. Thousands were sheltering there after being forced to flee from the north of Gaza. It comes as President Biden heads to Israel and the Kingdom of Jordan Wednesday to speak with the regional leaders about this growing humanitarian crisis.
And at our request, the United States and Israel have agreed to develop a plan that will enable humanitarian aid from donor nations and multilateral organizations to reach civilians in Gaza, and them alone.
Hundreds of trucks with supplies for Palestinians in Gaza are waiting on the Rafah crossing in Egypt to open, hoping to get inside Gaza to deliver vital resources for the millions in need. Aid workers say thousands could starve unless food is allowed in, water and fuel also running out. This man explaining he fears for his family and all of Gaza, with children dying. The Rafah border crossing still closed and no word on when it may open. Biden will also talk to Israeli authorities about their plan to defeat Hamas, the militant group responsible for last week's terrorist attack that left more than 1,400 Israelis dead.
First is making sure he gets an update from our Israeli counterparts about their plans, their intentions, how things are going on the ground, and make sure that he conveys a strong message of continued support. Number two, it's really on the humanitarian front.
Some 360,000 reservists have been called up in Israel, possibly signaling a ground invasion into Gaza could be next. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowing to demolish Hamas, who they say are holding nearly 200 people hostage. And crowds already taking to the streets across the region in protest of the strike on that hospital as President Biden touches down in Israel tomorrow. Inez de la Quatera, ABC News, Jerusalem.
And today on the floor of the U.S. Senate, Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell talking about the president's trip to Israel tomorrow, saying President Joe Biden needs to clearly demonstrate the United States' support for Israel during these tough times.
This is a time for choosing, and the choice is crystal clear. We must stand with America's closest ally in the Middle East, with the people of Israel, with those held hostage by terrorists, and with their families.
Mitch McConnell going on to say that President Biden must also show Iran and Hezbollah that he means business to deter them from any further involvement in this conflict. ABC's World News Tonight and David Muir will have more on the deadly hospital strike, the developing news today. That hospital served as a shelter for thousands of people who fled their homes in northern Gaza. And more coverage of President Joe Biden's trip to Israel on ABC's World News Tonight at 6:30, right after WHAS 11 News at 6.